For those that are like joining us, this is the new season of The Playground, and we thought it appropriate to start the season with this. I will give all credit to my producer, Teresa Goss, who came up with this great idea. And I thought, okay, we need to get on this like right away. So first of all, thank you, Boss Goss. Really appreciate it.
You are quite welcome.
Thank you. And thank you guys for being here. As we said before, this is a kind of a tribute to Tommy DeBarge, our original bass player. There's been a lot said about Tommy, his musicianship, his friendship, his just all around awesomeness. And I really wanted to get with the guys who've worked with him both in the studio and, you know, again, as friends or whatever, and share our stories as far as like what it was like to work with Tommy, going back to the beginning. And you'll see that there are some people here who knew Tommy since before Switch. So
since he was knee high to a grasshopper.
That's smart.
Right.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, and we're going to go this, but I just want to start out by saying when I first met Tommy, when I heard him play bass, I told Tommy like back then, and you probably heard me, the guys here have probably heard me say this. I always thought Tommy DeBarge was going to be like one of those bass legends up there with like Larry Graham and Louis Johnson. I could totally see him back then on the cover of like bass player magazines or whatever, and giving like crazy interviews as far as like his technique, his playing or whatever. Right. I thought Tommy was that good. And I mean, him in the studio, his bass playing was totally melodic and so tasty. I mean, just some of the ideas that he came up with was just amazing. I have a lot to say, and I'm not going to waste it. You guys have a lot to say as well. So with that, I'm just going to start with that and leave the floor open to you all. So anybody, go.
Hey. Well, let me go.
Please. This is Andrew Brown.
Yeah.
Andrew, thank you.
Yeah. Tommy was, of course, my brother-in-law. He married my sister, April. They had 4 kids together. And I actually introduced him to his first wife, Ducky. They had 4 kids together then too. Yes, I did. So I was kind of instrumental in all them kitty boos around. So, but check this out. I enjoyed when you, Eddie, and Philip, when y'all were talking about your pre-switch thing, when you guys were back in Ohio and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Just like with us, there's 3 of us in here right now. And talk about MC, Greg, and myself. We met grade school, Henry School. Okay? We went grade school, okay? And it's like, we all were like, oh, you play an instrument, things like that, And that's how we really started connecting, of course. That's how far back we go. Mm-hmm. And then we started playing in bands with each other all over Grand Rapids and stuff. And so when we knew Andre Adney, which is the cousin to the DeBarges, because the DeBarges come from, the Adney family. Right. So we're all together and we're playing in clubs and we playing a little bit in church. I guess we were the heathens. You know what I mean? Because we were doing both things. MC know what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
And so we're getting to be known in the city for playing in all these bands, okay? This was probably in the latter 60s, all right? And I'm walking on, help me out, guys, was it Benjamin or what was the street that they lived on?
616 Giddings.
Giddings. Okay, Giddings. Okay. Dead of winter, we didn't have no cars. We kids, we walking in the snow and stuff like that. I'm walking in like knee-high snow. Right. And coming from a rehearsal, and I see this guy running to me, full steam. Hey, man, hey. And I'm looking, and I'm saying, wait a minute. I said, this guy, his hair was all out like this, no shirt on. Okay.
In the dead of winter.
A dead of winter now, okay? Dead of winter, no shirt, pants on, but had on some boots, okay? He's running at me full steam. Philip, he's running at me with a bass in his hand. And he's
Wait a minute. Boots, pants, no shirt, and a bass.
No shirt.
And a
And
bass.
it's dead of winter.
Tommy
In
DeBarge.
dead of winter. So
I was gonna
he
say
must
somehow
have-
that sounds like Tommy DeBarge
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
he
from the
must
very
have saw
beginning.
me come out of house. You know, he must have saw me and came out of his house and was running towards me to, hey man, I play bass like that. And I'm looking at him, he running around me, he looked like a little Hispanic dude, you know? And so he starts playing bass right in front of my face. He just, he's playing. And I said, boy, this boy can play. You know what I mean? I'm looking at him. And so that's how I first met Tommy. He was the first DeBarge that I met was Tommy. And then I invited him to the shows we were doing because, you know, they were out of the church. So the Pentecostal network didn't really want them playing in the clubs.
Right.
But Tommy would come and play with us, just like Bobby would come out. Remember, Bobby would come out and do sessions. I mean, with us too, with rehearsals and things like that. But
Drew, how old was Tommy? How old was he then? About?
wow, Tommy was 2 years younger than me, so he's 65. No, 66, like 64 or something like that.
Yeah, when he passed.
So that was back in the latter 60s.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's how he was the first DeBarge I met.
Elementary school.
Yes, we were like, dude, we were doing all type of music, and Tommy always could play. Okay, Tommy always could play bass. When he scared us one time, and share this one when he with you too, it was after we had did the Gemini tour. Okay, so this was probably in the latter 80s. All right.
Okay, the Gemini tour being
with L.
Thank you.
L's Gemini tour. It was the last tour that he did, and it was the last album he did with Motown. Okay, so we were out doing it. Remember when we did the Arsenio Hall show and everything else? Remember that? Did all the Arsenio Hall. We came back to Grand Rapids. Him and Chico were in a car. They had went to Detroit and they were coming back, and it was dead of winter. You know what I'm getting ready to say, okay? The car lost control and it flipped over.
Flipped over. Yep.
And Tommy lost consciousness and his hand went out of the window and the car rolled on it and crushed his hand, okay? And his hand, it was like a big gash in here like this. And we didn't think Tommy was going to ever play bass
again. That's right. I remember.
Remember that?
Too.
They grafted from his leg, they grafted all this back in, and we still were like going, man, I don't know Tommy gonna be able to do. Tommy just got the playing, got the rehearsing. I'm gonna get this, man. You know.
That's Tommy.
Unbelievable. He started playing bass better than before. I couldn't believe it.
If I remember correctly, to that point, Elder Barge's "You Were It Well" was after the accident, correct? So if anybody wants to hear how Tommy sounded after that accident, listen to that record because he killed it.
Yeah,
killed it.
And if I can interject for a second, that's when I really realized that Tommy DeBarge was born with roach blood. And you know what that roach blood is? When the lights come on, here they come. You can see them come, but they won't die. Okay, anyway, excuse me.
Right.
Greg.
Yeah.
See, Greg, he should have been the comedian part too. You know,
we always say that. We always say
comedian part going on. You know, that always kept us rolling. But Tommy was always a character.
Yeah.
You know
what I mean? Funny. Come on, Drew. Tommy
Tommy would come in and be saying some crazy stuff, and then when he get to playing bass, you look and you say, "Wait a minute."
Right.
This boy,
right. And you're right. Tommy would come with some off the wall stuff like, "What?
Yes.
What?
Yes. And then wait a minute. You know, I had this car that was I got when I first came in LA. It was like a Buick Century, and it was kind of yellow, and it had white interior.
Oh Lord!
And so Tommy called it the Wild and Loud. He called my father Wild and Loud. He said, yeah, G, let's go and ride with the Wild and Loud. So after a while, he goes and gets the Alfa Romero. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yes, please. With that,
I told
Greg,
myself,
Philip,
you don't
MC,
need this car.
Jody.
Well, okay, let me quickly share this, and then I'll get back out of here.
No,
please.
I repeat this story often about when Tommy got that damn Alfa Romero. Him and Bobby both had them Alfa Romeros. And Tommy would get stopped by the police all the time, up and down the freeway, speeding like he didn't know what he had. And, I remember one time being with him, and one of the police told him, Tommy asked the police, do you know who I am? Police said, yeah, you the guy about to get arrested.
And you remember when he first drove up with that? I mean, we were only getting like so much money from Motown. There was no way he could afford that car. And we were all like, Tommy, really? You can't afford this. No, man. I could do this. I could do that.
And it was a convertible too.
Right. It was beautiful. Beautiful. Way outside of his budget.
Didn't he run it into a house or something? Or
after what, did he have it a year? How long did he have the car?
No, he didn't have.
I don't believe it was a year.
Okay, y'all overlooked one other part. Bobby had an Alfa Romero too. Both of them bought new Alfa Romeros that year.
Within a year, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was gone.
But you know, man, Tommy was such a lovable guy.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Tommy, you would say, doggone it, Tommy, he got me into so much mess. You know what I mean? I was like going, Tommy, please.
We could all tell those stories.
But you loved it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, Tommy, you'd say, okay, Nico, true, I'm your little brother. You know what
I mean?
Greg Williams, share some stories there.
Oh God, wait a minute. Drew just said that I'm your little brother. You know what the most thing that I remember him saying to me when Tommy did some crazy stuff, and I tell Tommy, that's crazy. Don't you know you can go to jail for that? Or man, come on, man. What about your money? And he would say, wait a minute, man, don't cuss me out. This could be you. What the hell you mean this could be me? I ain't gonna
Absolutely not.
Anyway, go on. I'll get there. Go on.
Oh God. You know, I mean, but you know, in Grand Rapids, we had so much stuff going on, and I'll share this and you guys will push on too. But what was interesting, and Melvin can attest to this too, because we came out to church and was playing in the clubs. You know what I mean? And Tommy was with us. You know, Tommy went with us with all the stuff. The rest of them couldn't, because you know, Elle was studying to be a minister underneath Uncle Bill. Right. And all the rest of them, you know, Bunny and all them, they were with the group. The DeBarges were a gospel singing group, you know, at that time. And we had Marvin Sapp over at, what was it, New Hope or something like that, MC? I'm trying to think of where he was. And we all ended up at Bethel, because we all knew that was where the music was, you know, the gospel music was being done on a big scale over there at the Abney's church.
And let me ask this, Drew. I mean, of all those churches, and I think Marvin was out of True Light, and quite frankly.
That's what it was.
Okay, and over at Bethel, the music, the gospel music there, sounded like contemporary. It compared to Al Green and the OJs and all that. And that's why a lot of people gravitated to that particular church, because we could go have a jam session on Sunday and not be penalized for it. Excuse me, I just had to.
So at that age, at that young age, I mean, the DeBarges was pretty much known around town. At that young age.
They were known in the churches.
In the church, thank you, Drew.
Okay. You know, they were known in the churches and stuff, and like out of Detroit, you know, because Mattie Moss Clark, you know, Greater Grace and all those big churches over there, they all knew of the DeBarges through the Abneys.
The Abneys, exactly.
Abneys, because see Ederline and James and all, I mean, excellent musicians, I mean, singers, excellent singers and stuff. So the DeBarges were known in the church circuit. The only ones that we got was Tommy and Bobby.
Okay, and let me expound for a second. Excuse me, but let me expound. See, who was known? The Abneys were known worldwide for their gospel prowess. And
I didn't know that.
Ederline, absolutely, all over. And then Ederline being a sibling of Pastor William Abney and Brother James Abney, who actually sang with the Four Tops at a point in time. You know, they, the Abneys, DeBarges benefited from that because of the Abneys, okay? Right. But Bobby and Tommy, even though they grew up in the church, they were not necessarily, they were in it, but not of it, in the sense of wanting to explore their musical talents and musical outlets. So that's what prompted them to hang out with all of us, me and us heathens, me and Drew and MC them, hang out with us heathens and go to the bars and do whatever we could do to make the real music according to us.
Tell it, Greg. Tell it. Shame the devil. Shame the devil.
So Greg, Greg, when did you and Tommy connect? At what point did you and Tommy connect? Was this all around the same time? Was it the same? With,
well, I don't know it being
MC
the
as well,
time because I don't know. But it was when Tommy was in his teens, and he and I connected after I met Bunny. I met Bunny first at Ottawa Hills High School, and then I met her brother Bobby, who didn't go to school but hung out at the school.
Yes, in the piano room,
just like I did, because I wasn't going to class either. So we was hanging out, and we was hanging out with music programs.
MC,
so
you said the piano room.
In the piano room.
Well, actually, there was a choir called Sounds of Soul, and I think Drew might have more information about that because he was more in it than not, and less of it, and I was of it and less in it. So anyway, with that being said, hung out with Bobby. Me and Bobby talked about different kind of music. We weren't talking about no gospel music because I didn't know it was a foreign. You might as well spoke in French to me. But anyway, bottom line is through meeting Bobby and going to the house and hanging out, that's when I met Tommy. And strangely enough, Tommy just latched on to me. Like I talked about that roach blood. Well, this leech blood. He just hung on, and I couldn't let the brother go. And it was like I wrote about it in this little thing here that I posted on Facebook. The fact that Tommy told me he wanted to hang out with me, and we asked his mother could he hang out with me, and he been hung with me until he died. To be honest with you, do a lot of stuff, a lot of situations. That was my little brother. I loved him dearly, respected him to the utmost. You know, me and him both crazy, so it was kind of okay, you know. But that's when we met, and until he passed the other day is you know, the only thing that stops it, that cuts it short, and it still don't, because I'm gonna love him forever, and he always gonna be a part of me and my memories and my dialogue. It's just
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
MC.
Yes, sir.
You and Tommy, how did you guys meet?
Oh, wow. Listen, you know, that it's funny to piggyback off of what Drew says.
And I'm sorry, before we go any further, for those that don't know, MC plays guitar, great guitar player. Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And you know, I was laughing when Drew was talking about Tommy running down the street with no shirt on with the bass.
Yeah.
Because I had a similar situation. I had, you know, Andre Abney, of course, and I were friends. So that's how I met the DeBarges. And so I had met Tommy a few years earlier, and I didn't really know him. Okay, but what happened was we moved up on Thomas and Fuller area. Okay. And so I'm walking down the street one day, and this guy comes, just like Drew said, barreling down the street, man. He was just flying. And I was like, man, what's wrong with this guy here? He said, hey, dude. He said, I know you. He said, man, you my cousin Andre's friend. I said, really? And so anyhow, I was like, I'm trying to remember, where do I know this guy from? This is like about 68, I think, Drew, 69. I think he was going into 7th grade or 8th grade or something. But anyhow, I was like, man, oh yeah, this is one of those, because listen, like he said the word Hispanic. Now I would have chose another word, because when I first met him or seen him, this guy's face was, and his hair was just all over, and he had dirt on his face, and he was like he'd been eating and playing in the dirt at the same time. And I said, like, man, I don't know. He said, yeah, my cousin Andre, man, my cousin Andre. Now, ironically, I was walking down the street with a guitar. And this guy says, man, you play the guitar? I do too. Oh, really? You know, I'm like just moved in the neighborhood. I'm like, I got a friend. He said, but no, I don't play the guitar. You play, he said, I play the bass. I said, oh, I got somebody who lives down the street at the end of the block. I said, now we can hang out together. And you know what's funny about it is from that day forward, almost daily, Tommy would come down the street and sit on my porch. I'd sit on the porch, you know, playing the guitar. Drew, and I know you remember, Greg, you probably remember too. People were like, man, don't go over there in that area, man. 2 or 3 blocks away, you can hear that guy on that guitar. He's on the porch, got a great big custom amp. He's got that great big custom amp sitting on the porch. My mom was at work, so I was kind of like free to roam until like about 4 or 5 o'clock. But you know what sticks out is Tommy, from the day that I met him, he has such a warm, sweet personality. I mean, he was just a lovable guy. And I fell in love with him from the beginning. The thing about it was when I first heard this guy play, he knocked me off my feet, and he was just learning, and he was better than most guys around that had been playing for a couple of years already. He just had this natural hearing feeling that just, man, like you said, like Drew said about us playing in church, we did play in church. We played in church and we played in the bands. But Tommy had a feel like when we would go to Bethel, man, the grooves were just there because we had, Bobby was playing keyboards and Tommy, of course, was playing bass. Andre was the drummer at the time, Andre Abney. I never will forget. But it was like another session because we used to do a lot of jam sessions. But it was like going to a session on Saturday at the Glow. Oh, you know about that, Greg. You know about that, Drew. But you know, Tommy was just a lovable, warm guy that from day one when I met him, I fell in love with him. I'm in love with him right now. And so, you know, that was my brother. That was my little brother. A couple of years younger than Drew and I, maybe, I ain't gonna say how many years younger than Greg, but you know, just great memories of Tommy. Well, see, Greg, now, you know, I remember when I met you too, but we're not gonna talk about that.
No, this is about Tommy, okay?
Yes,
and
sir.
if I can
This is
stick
about
a little tag in here, if I can stick a little tag in here, and I'll speak to Teresa, who's over the silent. Teresa, every one of the guys in here has a story about how Tommy made us love him because he did. He was not going to let us not love him.
That's right.
That's Tommy. Tommy, and that applied to us and everybody else. We were a little more pronounced because we were close to him. But Tommy had a way of drawing in people and making people, you're going to love me. This could be you.
Yep.
So you're
Very well put.
love me.
Very well put.
Well,
Like
I
you
have
said,
to
that-
tell you
like-
guys, I'm
like-
loving this. This is amazing. And I just told my childhood friend who I met when I was 3, and I used to have Switches posters on my wall when I was in high school. I just told her what I'm doing right now. And she was like, how do I get in? What do I have to do? I'm like, You have somebody else coming in too, by the way. But yes, I'm loving this,
There he
guys.
is.
This is amazing. This is legendary.
Awesome, awesome.
It's special.
And that's funny. Like you said, Tommy would draw in people. Like your story as far as like him and the policeman. You know, don't you know who I am?
Right. The audacity of Tommy. But
Yeah.
the audacity of you are not knowing who I am.
Right. Right. And I mean, he would just go up to people that are like, well, no, you remember, I think we were out shopping for clothes or something like that. And Rod
I know where you're going, Eddie.
Rod Stewart
Right,
is across the street. Y'all remember that? Rod Stewart is across the street, and Tommy, just like they're friends for years. Hey, Rod, how you doing? You know, like just Tommy. And I think Philip was the first one. Tommy, you don't even know.
Right? Right?
That was his personality, though. Totally.
Yes.
figured.
Y'all can't forget his friend John Tavares either. And
John
for those that don't
Tavares.
know, that was John Travolta. But
Right,
according to
right.
Tommy, that was John Tavares.
John Tavares. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Jody, as a drummer playing with the bass player Tommy, what was that like? And of course, you guys, please take the floor.
No, I just listened to some of these beautiful expressions of Tommy, and you know, people's relationship, the one-on-ones is different for different people.
That's right.
So my personal relationship, someone just mentioned about his personality, the sweetness of his personality, and that's what I really appreciated about Tommy. And Now, this is real to me.
Please.
But
please.
Tommy, to me, was one of the humble DeBarges. Now, I know you guys have a different relationship with DeBarges, but I was more on the outside. And I just knew them and their personality. You knew Bobby and you knew the others. But Tommy just seemed like he didn't really realize how talented he was to me.
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very talented. And I love the texture in his voice when he sang that song, Found Someone.
Mm-hmm.
That song he wrote and he sang, and a beautiful, the texture of his voice. I just don't think that he's ever really got to express his talent like he really had, because of all the other things going on in his life, obviously. But it was funny too, because I remember we were in the what was that, in Detroit, when we had that first autograph session, and we drove up and we went behind the mall, if you remember. And so the security guy comes and gets in the van, the limo, and he says, "Look, now you guys got to go out here one-on-one, one at a time, because of all the crazy people there." And so you open the door up, and the first thing, Tommy goes out, and he was just walking all slow and all swagging, because he was like digging all the girls and everything. And they almost choked him, if you remember. One part this way, one part that way. And so the security guy threw him back in the limo and said, "Look, man, my job is on the line, man. You guys got to get in there right." Well, we straightened up real quick there, didn't we?
Yep, that's right. That's right.
It was just sad to hear about Tommy. It was very sad, because he was really gifted. He was talented. He was engaging when you talk to him. He was funny. And like I said, he was willing to be a follower too. He wasn't someone that, like, I'm the man amongst the group. Now, how he did other ways, I don't know. But from my experience, he was willing to be a follower. He never, ever, I've never, ever heard one negative statement about the group from Tommy. Never. I've never heard anything when we were, all the things that was going on. Never. Yeah, I mean, Tommy was just awesome. I loved him. Very good.
It's interesting to your point, as far as like he's well known for his bass playing, but to your point, as far as his vocals, Tommy had such a rich vocal voice. He was always in tune. I mean, he could sit, he was just as talented a vocalist as he was as a bassist. Little known fact that most people don't know, and I always share this. When you listen to our song "I Want to Be Closer," on those backgrounds, that's Tommy singing the top part. It's assumed that it's Bobby, but it's actually Tommy singing that top part. I don't know if I don't know if you guys remember that. But it's assumed that that's Bobby singing that. Da, 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 da. That's Tommy singing that.
Eddie, I asked him once. I said, "Hey, man," because we were, talking about doing new music, and I kept saying, "Man, you have the most beautiful voice, and I really hope you take the lead on some of these songs." And he always told me, he said, "But when I'm playing in concert, I have a hard time singing lead and playing bass at the same time." And I didn't know for a bass player that's a thing, but he said, "No,
that is a thing." Yep.
He said, "When you're playing bass," he said, "I just can't sing lead at the same time. But every time I stop playing bass, I'll jump in." I was like,
Hey.
Yep.
His voice was phenomenal.
Phenomenal voice. You're right.
Phenomenal voice.
Totally agree.
Yes, I agree.
And he's so known for his bass playing that part is kind of like moved to the side. But you're right. I mean, he was a phenomenal vocalist. Great vocalist.
That's him, obviously, on the lead on Best Beat in Town. Have a beat. That's Tommy.
Yep.
So when we do that now, Eddie, that's you.
Yeah. And I couldn't touch Tommy. I couldn't touch him. I can't touch anybody for that matter, but I can't touch Tommy on that one.
Come on.
So
Fortunately, the beauty of it all is each one of us, everybody on this page right now, hold their own when it comes to singing, playing, and doing what they got to do. Yeah, we might be different from somebody else, but we give it the best we got, each one of us. And it makes me so proud to know each of you and to have ventured through life with you guys.
Do you guys have any stories about him as a performer? Because I do, but I know you guys performed longer. Like on stage, I remember, being, I've only been around y'all for 20 years.
20 years.
Only 20.
Y'all been with each other for much longer. But I remember Tommy, that spirit of love you guys are describing, it came across on stage. Because do you remember the tongue? He was always out there. tongue out.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was his thing.
Tongue out, and he would be right there, and in all the hits, guys remember how he would do it
Yep.
with his instant. He was just so out there as a performer, and it was his personality for the world to see when he was on stage. And
That's
it's just special, very special.
No, when they talked about the Sounds of Soul, which was a group that came, it was a gospel group that was in our high school that was like the Sounds of Blackness, right? And that situation had all of the DeBarges playing. You know, Bobby was playing piano. I think Elle was playing organ. Let's see, who else was in? I was on drums, but Tommy was playing bass, and Marty was playing trumpet. Okay, but it's like the group sounded like, you know, like the Sound of Blackness, really contemporary gospel that was in high school, you know. But Tommy playing with him and that thing, Tommy always had a drive. His bass, you know, speaking from a drummer standpoint of view, working with a bass player, his drive was second to none. You know, I was
like I said, his style, it was he was melodic. I mean, you know,
yes,
you know,
yes,
he was totally melodic in his style and his approach to playing. It was that way, and you hear it a lot in They'll Never Be. You know, do 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 do. I mean, everything was like, I mean, very, very melodic. I Call Your Name, another one, very melodic playing, you know, so incredible bases. And like I said at the top, when I first met him, I'm like, man, this guy, Louis Johnson, you know, Larry Who, wait till you meet this guy, you know. And to Achilles' point, I mean, it was a joy watching him in the studio. I mean, he come up with these great ideas and all that stuff in that tongue. And of course, on stage, please.
Yeah.
That tongue was just out there like all the time. You know, so
did Motown, they allowed him to play on certain ones, right? Certain tracks, right? He was.
What do you mean for Switch?
No, he played on everything.
Oh yeah, he played. Yeah,
it was down to whoever produced, and 90% of it was Tommy on with everybody.
Yeah.
I want to be closer. Jermaine put the band together, but he's playing.
Yeah, that track was already done when we got
the track was done. You're right, Eddie.
Right,
the track was done.
But I'm saying the other stuff, that's Tommy. But I have to say, Eddie, when you and I first met, because Eddie and I was in a local band, you know, called Raw Soul, and then you know, we knew about White Heat, you know, Greg and Jody and Bobby. Because Tommy wasn't in. I'm talking about the album,
the original group too.
Right. We were like, you know, some other folks from like Michigan and Ohio, because you know we had basically Ohio players. You know, it's like, oh wow, somebody from Ohio like did something. You know what I mean? And then you guys got that record deal. We had the album. And then I was like, why did they end back up in Akron, Ohio? You know what I mean? But hey, I'm glad you did. Trust me. But
right, same.
Thank you.
But that's when we started hanging out. We started doing shows and stuff together. And I remember meeting Tommy. I remember I was 16. I think, Eddie, you were like 18. And Tommy was 17. I still remember him playing me. We over to the band house. Where's the party? And I was like, man, are you kidding me? I mean, 17, like you said.
That's the song that he wrote, right?
Yeah, he wrote that and sang it. But I mean, he was just playing it for me before it was recorded. I said, man, this is like stupid good, you know? And so the musicianship, we all had that respect. And that's why when this all came together, it was just like, you know,
it was
people even to this day, you know, the one things we get when we do shows, first of all, they always talk about our harmony, but they forget that we're all musicians as well. You know what I mean? And so there's a picture, I think you put it on the little movie, Achille, where Jody, you're on the drums and Bobby is right next to you, like getting ready to
get on the ready
to get on the drums. And you're gonna come out front. I mean, it was just,
and Jody grabs the mic and goes down in the front and starts singing lead.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just, you know, but no, when I first saw Tommy, and Greg, honestly, to your credit, you know, putting these folks together, even MC at the time, it was just. And then me and MC and Tommy got stories at the band house when you and Jody came to California. I remember at one time MC and them was like, what y'all doing? I'm asleep. And they come in the room, like you know, come in the room and I was sleeping. They pull in the covers. I'm like, And I didn't see nobody. And he's like, and I'm like, and then when I'm like, what y'all doing, man? I'm trying to sleep. That was MC and Tommy when y'all went to California. So that's why I was like, that's why I was like, you know what? Man, I mean, Mansfield is only 60 something miles from Akron. I'm going back home.
I'm going home.
I'm going back home and eat my mama's cooking instead of compete with all this. And that's when Tommy said, hey, man, can I
go with you?
Can I go with you? And I was like, well, let me ask my mom. MC didn't ask me. I was gonna let him because I ain't gonna let him pull no covers on.
Yes, buddy, we had fun there.
No, we did have a lot of fun.
Yes.
But it was me and MC and Tommy left at the house in Mansfield.
Right.
When you and Jody came out. And but yeah, so what I'm saying though, the musicianship, and think about it, even when we did that little demo, 8 songs in what, about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks? Yeah. And that was pretty amazing to do all of that. And you know, I wish, matter of fact, I never asked this. Does anybody have a copy of those 8 songs?
Greg,
Jody, you got a copy of those songs?
I do not. We only had one tape, if you remember, Greg.
I know.
Oh, of course.
Right. And coincidentally, that was also in the dead of winter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We even slept in the studio in Columbus, Ohio. I remember that one night.
Yep.
And Tom was nice enough to allow us to stay there, you know. But yeah, not Tommy, but Tom. I think his name was Tom Murphy, the engineer.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Yeah, he's one to own the studio. But anyway,
Okay. Let me
even back then,
interject
it's just the
for a second.
respect for the musicianship. Even 16, 17 years old was.
At such a young age. Yep. And we all took it seriously at that age. This was like a serious thing, you know. This was not, we weren't playing at it. We were playing, you know. So,
Absolutely.
Greg, you were going to say something there?
I was just going to interject that I got it.
You do have it?
I got it. Whoever wants it, you can have it.
I definitely want it.
Same.
I got it.
Wait, because in the shared switch folder, Greg.
And Greg,
It'll be in there.
and Jody.
If not, I'll put it in there.
Now I'm gonna tell you, because if you think about it, we did Somebody's Watching You, remember, as part of the demo, which was, I think, the only song from that demo that actually made the album.
That's right. You're right.
Right.
And Jody did that. And if you remember, Jody, when we first did Soul Train behind, and I wish we could get a copy of that. When we did Behind Jermaine, we didn't even have a record out, but they allowed us to do 2 songs, and we're like, man, we ain't got a record out, but it was cool. We played behind Jermaine, but then we got to do Somebody's Watching You, and was it I Want to Be With You?
I Want to Be With You.
So, Philip,
On the very first time we did Soul Train. But I remember when we did Somebody's Watching You, they were all dancing and stuff. It's like, so.
But y'all do know that that's on YouTube, right? Both those songs.
Yeah, it's available.
I need to find it because I haven't been able to find that one. Send me the link.
Both those songs are on there.
Yep.
Oh, cool. I've seen the There'll Never Be Any Other stuff, but I'm talking about the very first time we did
that performance. That perforance is there.
Okay,
there.
cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jody had that like marching band thing. The
drum line, yeah.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's just, it was such unique. Again, so many people focus on our vocals, but honestly, it was everything. It was the whole package.
We were a good band, absolutely.
And Philip, you remember that long drive across the country on the bus with Tommy?
Oh heck yeah!
With
And
Tommy,
matter of fact, I talked about that.
We made that bus drive an adventure, and of course, Tommy led the pack.
of course.
I talked about that up on Facebook because if you remember, my mom actually made us some food. Remember, I had all that food.
Yep.
And so we went to the back of the bus and we were like, "Oh man, y'all want some chicken?" My mom,
Greg.
very hospitable.
Hey, Greg.
Yo.
Hey, man, do you have a copy of the Pell Mell Groove?
Ooh.
Hey, get rid of that, Drew.
My
You're not talking about the very original.
But
copy.
yeah, we did with Tommy playing bass, and then was it cousin or
Lester, my uncle.
uncle played bass too. But remember, MC was playing the Dr. Q.
Yes. Yes.
I got it, Drew. I got it. I
Yeah.
swear, Drew,
Yeah.
I got it.
Yep.
I got it.
It's on that cassette, right? It's on the cassette, right, Greg?
Yes, it is, Eddie. You're
Right,
absolutely right.
yeah.
I got it. I
Yeah,
got
we
it.
did that in my spot over there in my house where we recorded that over there. I had
2-track recording.
Drew at his studios. From
I
way
know,
back.
Drew. Come on, Drew. That's what I was talking about from the very beginning of this conversation. Drew was original.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Hey, any of you guys want that? Somebody email me. I'll create a Dropbox. I'll put it in there and you got it.
Please. Absolutely.
Something else you guys
same
may
here.
or may not recall or know. The first Switch It Live, Jody, that we did in 1981 when we were out with the Barcades. I've got that live too. Mistakes and all. I got the whole damn show. The show actually only got one show, and that was from Phoenix, Arizona, when we did the I had the name of it, but I just lost it. But it was a theater in the round.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Gypsy hosted it, Jody. He emceed that day. I got that whole show on my cassette, on my computer. So any of you guys want any of that stuff, you let me
Please.
know.
I definitely want that. Definitely.
I'll share it with you.
Definitely.
Yeah, just
Wow,
don't
you
release
guys.
it because I've been trying not to release it because it's a little rough. But between
Yeah,
us,
right.
y'all got it.
Yep, I heard it.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Akila, you were talking about when the time that you worked with Tommy. I saw a couple of photos where you guys were actually like in the studio. Is that right? What was that like for you?
Oh man, Tommy was Tommy was brilliant, as everyone here has said, but he was also a jokester. Tommy loved to crack jokes, and there's a lot of things I can't even share publicly because it's not.
Thank you.
That's a whole bunch.
That's Tommy too. That's Tommy too.
Yeah, it's not all PG, but we have some good memories, man, of him doing things and saying things and being a jokester and being so full of life that even though, we had business to do, it couldn't have been more fun. Working with Tommy and recording with him, it could not have been more fun. And his spirit was infectious. I don't know anybody who was ever around him that were happy if he was around. It's just, he was just infectious. The only people that weren't happy when he was around were Greg, the people on that tour bus who kicked us off when we were in New York.
And again, wait a minute, real quick. I thought that was really cute and clever of you to allude to what Tommy did, but not tell it.
I'm not gonna tell it.
Well, but wait a minute, we're among family, and I'm gonna tell it.
That was a show that I missed because I heard about this. I heard about that.
I'll let you tell it. I'm not gonna spill the beans on Tommy.
I don't remember. Barcades, Raul from SOS Band and Bobby from Daz Band. So it was a crew thing, and we were out for a few dates that we were doing with the Daz Band. Tommy went in the bathroom.
But he didn't tell anybody though, Greg. He just disappeared.
No, he didn't. He just went in there, and all of a sudden we got aroma from
and wait, you said one more thing, Greg. I hate to interrupt, but remember, we're on a tour bus. We're going from city to city, and we're coming out of Canada on our way to a show in New York. We're on a tour bus, and we're all on the tour bus. And Greg, go ahead, your story.
No, you just don't.
He's gonna pass it now.
You said, well, yeah, he's gonna pass the hard part, but it ain't the hard part. Because Tommy went in the bathroom and lit the whole damn bus up. Bus driver had to pull over, and we all
Wait. So what happened? What happened?
Okay, let me.
Eddie, there was an odor.
Oh,
it was a serious odor.
Thank you.
Serious.
Tommy had, for lack of Tommy had a bowel movement, and it turned the whole bus on.
But
I only heard about it because I wasn't at that show.
So the tour bus had been ruined, to say the least. It's all of us on tour, all these groups. The tour bus is functionally useless at that point.
We had to evacuate the damn bus on the freeway.
Nobody knew it. Nobody was owning up to it. But the bus was ruined. And when we finally figured out that Tommy was the culprit,
everybody finally realized that it was Tommy DeBarge. They wanted to throw Switch off the bus. They looked like we were refugees.
Guilty by association.
That's exactly what.
Man, it was bad news. It was really bad news.
Wow.
And Tommy, again, come on, Greg, don't do that, man. This could be you.
Wow.
But
Philip, I'm with you. I missed that one.
Oh yeah, but this was a story that you will all remember, and Jody, you remember this too. This was, I always call this pre-American Idol. We were all up at Motown, and we had a meeting, and when we came downstairs in the lobby, we were all together, all 6 of us. And remember, this girl said, "Oh, Switch," and she got all excited. You remember this, Jody? And she was like, "Switch," and she was like, had us all together. She wanted to take a picture and stuff. It's like, okay, we're like all nice, and we get ready to leave, and then she says, "I can sing," and none of us asked her to sing. We were like, okay, and so we're still getting ready to leave, and then if you might remember, she was like, "If I was your woman and you were my," and just what you just did, Tommy was the first one.
Of course.
He lost it. I mean, he lost it. He was worse than Simon Cowell. He lost it. And she got so upset, she started crying. You remember this? And she said, well, y'all don't look like your pictures. Then how did you know who we were? And then the whole band lost it. It's like, wait a minute. First you say, Switch, you want to take some pictures, and then it's like, anyway. Yeah, it was, yeah. But that was
right.
But I mean, honestly, she said she could sing, but honey, if I was your, I still remember the song. If I was your
you kind of did one
woman.
little thing. You kind of did one little thing wrong. The girl broke out singing, and I mean, she's a little girl, and she, if I was your woman. Kind of had a Barry White thing about it.
But he had that sense of humor. He would crack up laughing.
Oh, he lost it on that one.
And cracking up laughing, he had that infectious laugh. I mean, it filled the whole room.
When he would laugh, help but follow him.
You couldn't.
And
you
the
couldn't
thing
help
is,
it.
Tommy was just unfiltered. It just did not matter. He was unfiltered. It just
Exactly.
it went in, it came out. He didn't, it wasn't that he didn't care. He couldn't help it.
He was Tommy. Wow.
The best things in my life are with that guy.
Well, I want to say also too, even on the serious note, that I got a chance to FaceTime with Tommy last few days before he passed. My sister had went to the hospital, seeing him and stuff, and she FaceTimed us, and he was weak. His body was really weak, and he was still upset. I love you, man. And he always had a way of doing that with people. Like Kelly was saying, his love just always would come out. Tommy meant well. You know what I mean? In his heart,
he meant well. You're absolutely right.
You know what I mean? And he would always say, "I can't help it, man." But he had. I'm talking about Greg. It was like, but we loved him. We loved all of them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they, not just because they became my in-laws, okay, but I had a love for them before that. Because that's who they were.
You couldn't help it because, and let me interject here for a second, because the DeBarges were all about love. They knew very little more than that. They knew love. They loved each other. They embraced each other, and that spilled out into you and everybody else. They were innocent to a whole degree their whole lives, because a lot of teachings and lessons that a lot of us got, they did not get. But what they did get, they applied to each other, and it expounded further out. Now, I'll take a second here, you guys, and share something that a lot of folks don't know, and that is how Tommy passed. Tommy, actually, I don't know the specific title of his death, but we all know that Tommy was sick for quite a few years. He was on dialysis more years than I've ever heard anybody being on dialysis.
And still managed to play.
And still managed to reinvent Tommy every time he got a chance.
Yes.
That's what I revert back
I'm sorry,
to.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
No, it's appreciated, Eddie. And I revert back to that, me saying Tommy had roach blood, because Tommy's been sick for years, and that guy refused to die. He refused to stop. He did things that were contrary to what any of us would have done, because I think our survival instincts would have kicked in a little better and told us, don't do that. But Tommy was not prepared for that because of the things that he did not learn or was not presented to him as he grew up. Again, the most important, significant thing that he and his siblings learned was love, and that's what they were all about. Now, getting back to Tommy's last few days. The dialysis was an issue. A lot of folks don't know that the last couple of weeks, maybe the last 6 weeks, Tommy had gone into the hospital with COVID. Tommy was actually on a respirator. And a lot of those that loved him and knew him, you know, was wondering when that was going to end his life. Roach blood kicked in and Tommy came through. Okay, but in these final days, Tommy had liver failure. He had his glucose level could not stabilize for anything, meaning it was so low, it kept dropping. He was in the 40-30 range of glucose. Wow. And to the point where he was in and out of comas. Tommy was delirious a lot of the time. I know this because I was on the phone or text with his daughter every day for 2 weeks prior to his passing. Okay, so with all that, Tommy did not know who they were half the time. That's his baby girl. He didn't know who they were half the time. You know, so again, liver failure, glucose dropping in and out to comatose levels. And then because he had COVID, they had to stop the dialysis. So he went without dialysis for a few weeks. And then finally, when they were able to, he got infected. So his catheter got infected. So they had to take it out and they couldn't give him dialysis. Finally, they got him back to the point where they could at least put that back in. And the first time they tried to give him dialysis, his heart gave out on him. Oh, man. Just so you guys know what actually transpired him. Mm-hmm. But keep this in mind, through all that, Tommy fought. In his awareness, he was fighting. In his unawareness, he was fighting. He tried to communicate like Drew communicated with him. I talked to his daughter. I got pictures of Tommy the day before he left the planet. And Tommy was Tommy, man. You know, I mean, it was so simple. He fought. He had that, you know, I'm not making a joke about the roach blood at this point, but Tommy had a will to live, you know, matched by very few people, because he had a will to love matched by very few people. And the whole thing of it is that he loved each and every one of us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We made his world make a difference. But when we stop and look at it, he had a major impact on our earth too, did he not?
Absolutely.
Major.
And speaking of that fight, I mean, Tommy's pretty much been a fighter all of his life. You know, I mean, he's been a fighter all of his life.
All his life. All his life. He's overcome a lot of obstacles. Yo.
Now, when you mentioned about the impact, it was about 3 years or so ago when Tommy was in the hospital. And, you know, I went to see him, and you know, Tommy was honorary with the nurses and stuff. I'm like, man, come on, man, they're trying to take care of you. You know, like getting all grumpy. I'm like, anyway. But what I thought was interesting, he said, man, Philip, you know what? And you know, it's like, how do you answer this? He said, I really wish I'd have never left the group. And I just said, well, you know what? I said, Tommy, sometimes we make decisions in our life and we think they're the best at the time. I mean, because I was like
that at that time.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you think they're the best at the time. And so, but I say, you know, we understand, you know, you had to do what you had to do. But he did have regrets. So, I mean, he shared that with me. So I just thought that was interesting. So like what you said about having the impact on his life. I mean, you know, from, like I said, I'm 16 and when we all met, and so, you know, a lot of years together. So, and did a lot of great music together. So, you know what I mean? Which is, and you know, it still lives on.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? Above and beyond our legacy for hit records and, you know, being significant, making a significant impact, what a lot of people do not know is that we were brothers all the way down. We had a genuine love and respect for each other, you know, and
still are.
Thank you.
I noticed
Still
that.
are and still will. Yeah.
Because you know, Greg and MC, you know, we go way back. But when we met our Akron brothers, and even, you know, Steubenville, did I say it right?
Steubenville, yeah.
I say it. Hey, Kelly.
Steubenville, New York.
We're all spirit knows spirit. You know what I'm saying? MC,
right.
We talked about this yesterday. And it's like we always felt like that. Just like when we were talking about Dion, just meeting him, his spirit his smile. I said, man, that dude's smile when it was just, infectious, just like Tommy. Look at that picture in back of Eddie, and look at that big old smile Tommy's got on his face.
Yep.
See, it's infectious, man.
Yep.
Yes.
And all of our vibes have always been like that, man. Ever since we've known each other, and hey, it's gonna keep on. Tommy's spirit is still with us, so that's
it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that picture because everybody in that picture, we can probably all hear Tommy laughing.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
He had that kind of a laugh.
Right.
It was like,
Y'all, what's happening, man? That was his famous line.
yeah.
He even said that in that clip when we were here at the house doing the vocal rehearsal
That's right.
Healy put together. Y'all, what's happening, man?
Hey, wait a minute.
The
Real quick.
first-
Jody, Eddie Phillips, do y'all remember where that came from?
No, but I just know Tommy.
I don't remember.
Well, okay. You remember how Tommy used to emulate Arnie and all that stuff?
Oh,
Okay.
right.
No, but that's not where it came from. Where it
Right.
came from, he was emulating little David at the house.
Oh no, I didn't remember that.
Y'all
No.
don't remember that? Do you remember that, Jody?
No, I don't.
He was emulating. Okay, I would explain it, but this is
But
not.
I
the
remember
forum
Little
to explain
David used to
what-
say that.
This
I
is not the
remember you
forum
used to
to
say that.
explain what Little David had done, but Little David had done something, and we called him on the mat, and
Mhm.
he said, "Y'all, what's happening, Little David?" He said, "Y'all, what's happening?" And
Tommy ran with it. I didn't remember that at all.
It's actually the first thing he said to me, the first moment, the first instant I met him, Greg, after he picked me up from the airport way back then. We went and picked up Tommy, and he jumped out the window and said, "What's happening, y'all?" It's the first thing he said.
Okay.
Tommy Keith.
Yeah. Awesome.
Unique person.
Well, you know what? Any final? I mean, I guess everybody shared a final thought here. Anybody want to, in closing?
I'll say this. I too recently spoke with Tommy, and I had no idea that's what was going to go down. I thought I was going to do a FaceTime with him and April, and just maybe say a few words or whatever. So I was talking to April, and she says, MC, she says, Tommy is hearing every word you say. And so I stopped because that changed my whole feeling. So in the midst of that, Tommy says, Melvin. And I jumped. And he said, the next thing he said was, I love you, man.
Yes.
And I jumped again, and he says, I love you. And it just tore me apart. Now, this was on the Sunday prior to him departing. And I mean, his spirit, his love, his ability to say those few words, because I didn't know at the time whether or not he was able to speak or whatever. It just filled my soul, my heart, and it made me smile. And at the same time, I was crying on the inside. I'm crying now, but the point of the matter is this: that guy's spirit and energy was so strong and so infectious. As you said, Drew, this brother here, from day one when I met him, I knew I would know him all of my life. And I'm just blessed that I was able to share life with him as a musician, as a brother, as a loving brother. And I'm going to always remember him in that way, because Tommy was just Thomas Keith DeBarge. And, some of the funny things that you all have talked about and said about him, and there's been many things that we haven't mentioned, but Tommy was just a loving, lovable brother. So I just want to say that, in closing.
Thank you.
And of course, a great musician and a great singer.
Oh, absolutely.
Then with that, I mean, perfectly put. We'll close with that. First of all, let me thank you all from the bottom of my heart for doing this. I mean, this means a lot. I mean, to me personally, and I'm glad, for a time. Who is this? Is this James Strong? Is that who that is? He connecting now?
Yeah, James.
James.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Maybe he should be singing "Where's the Party" because he's coming all late to the party.
Right.
We're about ready to close.
We were just closing.
Harder. Oh, it's here.
I don't care what we do. As
We
long
were-
as we do it, calling all girls, I'm good.
And for those that don't know, Teresa, Andrew, Jody,
Please.
and Melvin, James Strong which is current bass player. He's actually was in before Dion, and he came back since Dion, and he's working with us now. But he's also one of our brothers.
Can you take the mask off 1 second? They can see the face, man. Come on, man. Okay,
There
there
he
you
is.
go.
There you go. Hey, brother.
You already
Yeah,
know.
matter
You
of
can
fact, I
always-
wrote about that.
Look,
I
you
wrote
can
about that.
always- You can always find me cheesing on a corner near you.
I wrote about that on my Facebook page because basically after Tommy started having some health issues, remember Michael Norfleet was working with us at the time, and he's the one who recommended James.
Absolutely.
And you know, again, another phenomenal bass player.
Yep.
We've been
Yep.
blessed to be working with some great musicians.
Mhm.
And so, and then, you know, and then after that, what was it, James? You had you got a, was it some at Indiana State U? What was that?
IU,
Thank you.
Indiana University.
Indiana University, yeah. So that was about 5-6 years or so ago, and that's when Dion came in, and then of course, so, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's been the 3 bass players: Tommy, Dion, and James.
And James.
Wow, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I'm actually walking around in Costco. It's a new Costco in town, and you know, don't get me. Hey guys, I live in Mayberry, AFRD.
AFRD.
AFRD, that's one.
AFRD.
Hey, they back. Hey, look, it's back. Hey, I'm telling you, it's backwards up in there, bro. I'm trying to survive.
Awesome. Well, James, since you did join us and we were about to close, do you have any thoughts on Tommy DeBarge?
Oh man, just that, you know, I had always been a fan of his. I was a fan of his before I even knew he was him. You know what I mean? Coming up, learning the bass lines. You know what I'm saying? And just, you know, I've always been a fan of the legacy and the music, and just, you know, it's euphoria for me. You know, in terms of just believing where I'm at to this day. You know what I mean? You look back on your life, and you reflect, and you're like, damn, how did I get here? Lord, thank you for looking out for me. You know what I mean?
But the beauty of it is, just like you and I were talking this morning, James, is you bring something valid to the table. You always have, you know, and I do dare say that Tommy and Dion both would be proud of you picking up the torch and carry on the legacy of what we had tried to do what we're trying to do at this point in life.
Word.
So,
Well, Greg, that's why I ended my Facebook page, because I said, you know, we lost Tommy, we lost Dion 10 days apart. So I said, James, you're gonna have to live up to your last name and stay strong.
I read that, Philip. I did read that. Right. I definitely read that.
You're right.
And he hit me back and like, he said, okay.
Eddie.
Yes, sir.
Eddie, thank you so much for this.
Absolutely.
You know what? And again,
well,
I'm going to throw this to Teresa, because Teresa came up with this brilliant idea, and of course, I was like all on. I'm like, absolutely, we should do that. So, Teresa, thank you. I mean,
absolutely,
great, wonderful idea. And
it was a privilege to just be a fly on the wall, you know, and just watch this and witness. You know, I have to thank you, because I've been in production for 18 years. You guys that know me know that. And, you know, both my parents are gone, and I have literally 30 seconds of my mother speaking on recording and nothing of my father. So when we lose somebody, I want to capture. It's always the first thing I think of is get the family together and at least capture the memories, you know? Because
very nice.
Yeah, so it's been a privilege. I want to thank you guys for just letting me sit here and go, wow, be a fly on the wall. Although I would have loved to have like filmed that whole bus incident with you guys getting evicted off the bus. That would have been classic, but that's another story. I thank you so much.
All I can say is I'm glad I wasn't there.
It's funny. I've always said whenever I get with the guys, when we all, you know, we can be out to dinner or whatever, we always like sit for like an hour and a half, 2 hours and just talk. And there was one time we got together. I'm like, man, we should have like a tape recorder sitting at the table, you know, from the moment we sit down, because we never know. I mean, there's so many stories of which we can share in here. Time just won't allow. But
okay, let me interrupt that because
please.
You don't need a tape recorder in 2021.
Right.
Well,
Anyway,
on your phone.
put my phone.
But
Put my phone in the middle of the table.
He came up. It wasn't 2021 when he came up with that. He came up with that October 30th, 2016. At a restaurant in Las Vegas. After we did the show, me, him, and Philip was having breakfast. Am I right, guys?
Yep, that's right.
Exactly.
So in the last 5 years, nobody's hit record?
You say what, honey?
In the last 5 years, none of you wonderful musicians and artists haven't hit record. I mean, record is your career, right? You guys, you know
what it is.
Leave it to Boss Goss to come up with that.
No, but you know what? It's a plethora of stories, and which just something will trigger this, and another thing comes up. You know, it's just
and the conversation just start. They just start. You know, and 2 hours later, it's like, man, I wish we recorded that. You know, like
because you're not thinking about let's be, you know, we just talking.
Just like before we actually like started recording, where you said, you know, Teresa had asked, let me know when to record. I'm like, you start now.
Start now, yeah.
You know, this is just us when we all get together. You know, so
I mean, and when Jody brought up bad records, you know, back in Detroit and stuff. I forgot about Tommy getting pushed back into the limo and the security guard. I mean, I literally forgot. I remember the bad records story, but I don't remember Tommy getting pushed back.
Part.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's what I mean.
That's great though that he can talk about that because we can't even talk about how many limos Tommy got pushed out of. We can't even talk about that.
and add to that a tour bus. I mean, wow.
And a tour bus. Boy, y'all rock stars. That's it.
But you know what? Just going back to Jody's thing, when I don't know if you remember this, when we went back to the hotel, because remember Jermaine and Hazel, they were managing us at the time, and we went back to the hotel. Jermaine and them never told us to not wear like scarves and watches and stuff. You know, they told us after the fact. After you know, he almost lost his life. Remember that, Jody?
Right.
Yeah, because it was like we didn't know, and you know, the Jackson 5 had all those hits, and so we learned doing autograph sessions. We didn't wear like no rings, no watches, no scarves, no nothing, because it's like. Matter of fact, wait a minute, you just made me think of one story. I remember one day we were doing. I want to be close.
Teresa, see.
No, check this out. And I've never done this since. Because, you know, we're doing, I want to be closer, right? And I remember this stage was high. And I'm singing like this. And this girl grabbed my leg. And I said, wait a minute. I was like, and I had to step back. I'm like, I saw myself, you know what I mean? And so I was like, after that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to step like, you know, let me step back here. You know, I mean,
and Philip, you just said that we didn't know. We didn't know. And you remember Jermaine Jackson used to always say that you will never know how big you are.
He
always say
never
that.
know.
Yeah.
Yep. He said that like almost, you know, I mean, all the
From
time.
the start.
What did he mean by that though?
Boy, did we learn when we got
because
out there.
if you live in one city, you're reading, you know, the impact you're having around the world, but you're not there. You mean, like he said, when the Jackson 5, when they started touring, you know, they were touring the United States, and then they're seeing, just like, wow. And then they go to Europe, and so that's when you start seeing it. But you know, you're reading, oh, you're happy, of course. Oh, we got a #1 record. Okay, great.
And let me
you remember we were on the West Coast, so we saw how things were happening on the West Coast. When we went to Detroit, that's when we found out. It's like, oh my goodness, you know. So,
matter of fact, remember we were shaking. Remember they had to pull us out. The owner got up on it. He said, we got to take Switch out of here because y'all gonna tear up our store.
Blood
and they put us back. Not about us, the store.
The screams were deafening. It was
they put us back in. Remember, they put us back in that little, what was it, like a little cubby hole or something?
Yeah, practically.
And then they had to regroup everybody. It was like, ooh.
Let me share some significance of that. Who don't know, really know Jody, Eddie, and Philip to that extent, and that is this: Switch was a group of humble cats from Grand Rapids, Michigan, Akron, Ohio, and Steubenville, Ohio. We didn't bring egos to the table. We brought a desire to play music and become good at what we did. So we didn't trip on it. We didn't know how big we were because that ain't what we sought out in the first damn place.
That's it. Exactly right.
So therefore, with that in mind, all these things that happen, like bad records and other things like that, okay, it was oblivious until we found out, until Jermaine would say, y'all don't know how big y'all gonna be. The truth of the matter, I question now whether we know how big we became. And we're talking 40 years later.
Yep.
Because that wasn't our motivation. We did it out
Well,
of
guys,
love.
can I put in my 2 cents as a super
Please.
fan? Okay,
Please.
I will tell you how big you guys are. The
Okay.
first time I was going to work with Eddie, we met in a coffee shop with a lady named Nikki Logan.
Yeah.
And she
Licky.
says, "Oh, Eddie's gonna play." I said, "Eddie who?" She said, "Eddie Llewellyn." I said, "From Switch?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Does he know it's just a local thing?" And she said, "Yeah." And we sat at that table, and I have no problem talking. If you know me at all, I can talk all day. I sat there looking at Eddie like this. And he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." I was like, he said, "Yeah,
Now I'm
that
totally
budget's
oblivious.
okay."
I'm just Eddie,
And then he agrees, and he walks out. I'm like, he said yes. Oh my God, he's gonna be there. Do you know their poster was on my wall? Wait till I tell the people back home. Oh my goodness! And it is such an honor to sit here. I can't tell
Thank
you.
you.
It is
Thank
such
you.
an
What
honor.
was
To
one
sit
of the
here.
biggest songs back in the Midwest that you guys remember?
This is what was interesting. You know, you had the hits. You had "They'll Never Be," "I Want to Be Closer," "I Call Your Name," right? "Best Beat in Town," and then "Love Over and Over Again." Those are like the 5 biggest. But so many, I mean, like I mentioned, Somebody's Watching You.
Mhm.
Radio stations would play that. Radio stations would play it. So we're radio. I mean, it was like
Yeah, yeah.
Calling on Our Girls, like you said.
That's what I'm saying.
Certain markets would
a lot,
play it,
but I'm
some
saying
they play it.
different
Calling on
DJs
Our
around the
Girls.
country would play different
Yeah.
songs, which said a
I'm telling
lot,
you.
even though they
As a
weren't the
kid-
big hits.
Yeah, as a kid coming up, "Calling All Girls" was a guy's anthem. When you get to a certain part in the party, like used to have house parties and basement parties and stuff. You get to a certain time in the party, right? Like when the party's getting ready to end an hour before, the DJ switches from fast music to slow music. "Calling All Girls," come on, boy. It'd be about maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock. Everybody, by that time, you got your girl, posted up and got whoever you gonna get for the night. Well, they "Calling All Girls," boy, come on. And that's when you seal the deal. When that tune come on, "Calling All Girls," oh man, I'm telling you. Because I was a youngster. I was a young buck, coming up back then. And so I'm watching my cousins come up, they experimenting with weed or experimenting with chewing tobacco. And I'm just hanging out as a kid. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Because I mean, the floor would be packed, and that song would be the anthem.
And that's
why
funny
Greg
too.
always mention it all the time. It's like, oh, we're gonna play
Right.
it, oh, we're gonna play.
And that's funny too,
ingrained in
James,
my
because
spirit.
even at this point, it's not necessarily a part of the Switch lineup. We try to get the hits and get out of town, but we find over the years that a lot of people have attached to "Calling on Our Girls," that it has become a hit to a lot of people. We play the radio stuff for the most part, but that is that. But again, I say this too. According to what I've learned over the years, guys, is that "They'll Never Be" was our biggest record in sales. "I Call Your Name" was our biggest record in radio play. And then followed "I Want to Be Closer," which was never a single. And "Love Over and Over" winds up being 5th to.
But you said "I Want to Be Close" was never a single. It was.
It was a B-side, but it was never really released as an A-side.
"I Want to Be Closer"?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
No, that was Greg. That was a second single off our first album.
It charted.
Yeah.
It charted.
Because "They'll Never Be," and then the second release was "I Want to Be Closer."
Tell me something about that, because I'm kind of lost there. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
"They'll Never Be" and "I Want to Be Closer."
Unless you get it
Remember
mixed up
that?
with "I Want to Be With You."
You said what? No.
No, "I Want to Be Closer." Yeah, that's why you
Okay.
think.
I know it was a big record for us, but I never knew it to be a single. I don't recall that. As a single.
That was the second single. Why do you think every time we do it, we get a standing ovation? Especially when we do that, "Girl, I'll Be." I mean, it's like every single time. That was a big record.
What was the
please,
chart on that?
please,
then,
you
Philip? What was the chart on
Jermaine
that?
Jackson's song is not gonna, it's.
I
gonna get
I
out
don't
there.
remember where it, I don't remember where a lot of the stuff went. I can look in the scrapbook and tell you.
Please do whatever you can on that, because I'd like to, because I got to shut that up if I'm wrong. So anyway, but point being, of all the things that we've done, our impact shows by right now, we're at the top of the charts again, guys, with a song called "No Friends in the Industry," but it's a sample of "I Call Your Name." by none other than Drake, who is one of the hottest recording artists of this damn century.
Look, if not the hottest.
If not the, right? Okay.
Yeah, he would probably, he got to be 1 and 2 up there with, Beyonce, Jay-Z, or any of those cats. You got a lot of young cats out there, but Drake is the godfather, man, right now when it comes to,
and that's still a confirmation and reiteration of the impact that we had and the quality and substance of what we brought to the table with our humble butts. Okay.
And I tell you, man, the unit is sounding real good. I can't wait to get back out there and get some good rehearsal in.
There we go.
I'm glad we got that 2 days in a row, man. We can utilize that and really get some great work done.
Well, it's so funny when we did the At Home with Twitch. You remember, Greg, the biggest compliments we got, because we're all older, but they would always be like, man, y'all still sound good. And I have a stock answer. It's like, oh no, they say you still got it. That's the common, you still got it. I'm like, honey, let me tell you something. If I give it away, I can't work. So I plan to keep it. You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, we're gonna have to close it. I said I was gonna close it because there were gonna be so many stories, but
see, you said a half hour, Eddie. I was like, Eddie done lost his monkey mind. It's gonna be a half hour.
I didn't expect everybody to be here, but I'm so glad everybody did. Thank you all so much for doing this. James, thank you for showing up. Really appreciate it. James Strong, our bassist.
Yeah, man.
Sings,
right on.
Drummer extraordinaire.
Jody, great seeing you.
Songwriter
extraordinaire. Guys.
Melvin Clark, guitarist. Cleely Nixon, a vocalist. Andrew Brown. Everything.
Absolutely, Eddie.
Philip Ingram, Gregory Williams, and again, producer Teresa Goss. Thank you again for coming up with this great idea. And
thank you so much, y'all.
Love you. Awesome.
Thank you and bless you all.
Both of you.